talk about the deep state. We talk about the globalists.
Inflation versus deflation. Well, I mean,
you're at Mar-a-Lago.
I'm baffled that this isn't front page news.
Do you guys support a specific political party, or do you dislike both of them?
Oh, it worked like a charm on you guys.
Let's go, Brandon.
What's up, everybody? How we doing? So it's been a while. We have a lot to talk about, and we're gonna be fast and furious with it. So since we last spoke, stock market sells off like was 1,000 points in the S&P, and we're down overall, I think 10% since all-time highs, which I don't understand why everybody's freaking out about this. I think this is wonderful. Genuinely, I genuinely think the best thing that could happen for the United States is a 50% stock market crash. And you might think I'm crazy for saying that, but I've been saying over and over again for the last, I don't know, what is it, weeks, months now, 90% of the stock market are owned by 10% of the population. All right. So yeah, we might get some unemployment numbers going up, but aside from that, like, it actually hurts the majority of people when the stock market goes up. And I was curious about this the other day. I said, it doesn't seem like it's quite as worthwhile to allocate your paycheck towards shares in the stock market right now as it might have been in 1970. And well, shit, that's 100% right. So I looked up what is the amount of hours it takes on an average salary to buy a share of the S&P 500 today. And take a guess. I'm going to tell you what it takes today, what it took in 1970. I even have a chart that ChatGPT ever so graciously spawned for me that says how many working hours it takes to buy a share of the S&P 500 by a decade. Well, today it takes about 170 hours of working on an average salary wage to buy a share of the S&P 500. 1970 it took 15 hours to buy one share of the S&P 500. So that's a striking difference. And, old people who say, oh, yeah, just put your money away, put it in the stock market, and it'll take care of you. Not so much the case. It's quite a different world since we got off the gold standard, boomers. So, for all the boomers and Gen X people who are freaking out, oh, my 401k, this, that. Guys, you have benefited from stealing from the younger generations for the last several decades. You're going to be just fine. The market's going to go back up. But, I've been waiting to buy the dip for my entire life. So I could not be happier that the stock market's going down. People are saying it's going to bounce back, whatever. No, I hope it doesn't bounce back. I really hope it doesn't bounce back. There's nothing normal about the rate at which the stock market's going up. What do you think the stock market would be at right now if we didn't deficit spend 36 trillion over the last 50 years? It wouldn't be where it is. It's so abnormal for it to be where it is right now. Literally 15 years I've been waiting to buy the dip. There's been no dip to buy. COVID, we almost got there. That wasn't a dip. That was a blip on the radar. In case you aren't somebody who looks at the stock market every day, let me just refresh your memory. And I'm going to put this in the poll right now while we look at this and say, is it a net positive for the country if we have a 50% stock market crash? And by the way, if we are lucky enough to have a 50% stock market crash in the United States, so help me God, Trump better not dare try to stimulate the economy, because we did that pretty much for every stock market crash in recorded history in the United States. Never helped anything. Never helped anything. I mean, there's so many stupid things being thrown around right now. You see that Ferris Bueller clip talking about how the Great Depression was exasperated because of tariffs, because of the Smoot-Hawley Act, and that tried to raise revenue by putting tariffs in. Guys, the Great Depression was caused by the Federal Reserve for the same reason that the last several market crashes were caused. They cut rates too low, all right? Held rates low for too long during the 20s. Roaring 20s, more like rock bottom interest rates during a growing economy. And then they jack rates up, to way too high of a level that crashes the market. And they left them high for too long, and they cut off access to credit. So the Great Depression wasn't because of tariffs. And you're going to tell me that, here, I'm just going to show you S&P all time, S&P 500 all time. And I'm going to put it in the poll. Chart, all-time chart. Here we go. Macro trends. Let me show you this. And it's funny how certain generations benefit so much more just by like when you're born. Like, look how much of a difference it is when, say, oh, you're born in the 30s, whatever. You're finally an adult by 1949, right? You turn 18, 1949. It's a pretty good setup if you start investing in 1949. You have a good 20 years of economic growth. But you turn 18 in 1974, not as good. You get some chop there, but ultimately, pretty good turnout for you. What's this in 2008? So people who graduate from college in 2008. So like, oh my God, it was so hard. Like I couldn't find jobs. But yeah, you had the Federal Reserve pumping money straight into the economy for, what is it now, 16 years straight. So you had the stock market on straight up easy mode. Like if you just threw any percentage of your paycheck into the S&P 500, you benefited greatly. So I think the worst time to turn 18 was, like in this range right here, like around 2018, 2020. Because like, what am I? I'm 30. I turned 18 in 2012. Yeah, I mean, shit. I thought this over here. I start to feel like we're at the top. Start to feel like we're at the top. Like, okay, got to come down. Huh? Really got to come down at some point. Like, oh, okay, it's starting to come down. Nope, not so much. So right now, I feel like we should, like, just to get to a reasonable level, like we should go back down to like, I don't know, 27, 37 at least. Yeah, 31 was the low, and I don't even think that was the low. I think it was like 2,500 in 2020. And it's saying 31. I think 31 is totally reasonable. I think 38 is very reasonable. So no, right now I think should go at least down to 43. Not financial advice, but am I on an island here in saying that we would greatly benefit from this? The vast majority of people would benefit from this. I'm going to put that in the poll now. Like, are you cheering for a stock market crash? And then I'm interested to hear why, if no, because like I understand why people who have a shit ton of stock that they own wouldn't want to go down. But for people who, 18 to 35 who don't have a ton of exposure to the stock market, why wouldn't you want to go down? I guess unless you're worried about losing your job, but we're going to have tens of thousands of jobs come back to America because of this. All right, so let me put that in the poll real quick. Do you want a stock market crash? Yes, no. Do you want a stock market crash? Question mark. Yes. No. All right. Well, I wait for the results coming from that. Let me pull up this chart that I grabbed because, I mean, people who are, what is it? Millennials, Gen Z, we have been dealt a bad hand. Let's see if this is the right one. Oh, this is for a house. So 1970s, it took 6,000 working hours to buy a house. Today it takes 15,000 hours to buy a house. All right. And got this for everything. Nope, still a house. The hell. I have one for the S&P. I'm just pulling it from my recent thing on here we go. All right, so 1950s, hours worked to buy one share of the S&P 500. 15 hours worked to buy a share of the S&P 500. 60s, 28 hours. 70s, 25 hours because of that dip. 80s, 33 hours. Start getting away from the gold standard. 90s, 36 hours. Then, kaboom. In the 2000s, doubles to 66 hours, right? So then it goes to 83 hours in the 2010s, then to 135 hours in the 2020s, then 169 hours as of yesterday. That's deadly. Like, how are we supposed to get ahead if we literally like can't invest in a way that's like functional? And this is again because they're pulling forward future money that doesn't exist yet, like taking it from us, like devaluing our future money to benefit themselves right now. So, yeah, not only do we need to bring back jobs to America, because that's why the wealth gap has increased so much, because we offshored high paying jobs and that increased corporate profits. So when people talk about, like when the socialists talk about the wealth gaps and like the wealth disparity and all that, like you don't have to go full blown socialist. You could just say like, hey, the people who run these corporations shouldn't be offshoring their jobs and paying 90 cents an hour for jobs that could be $80,000 a year jobs in America. All right. Like the middle class would be doing much better if we had those jobs in America still. Corporations wouldn't be doing as good, but they're doing way better than they need to be doing right now. Like they're doing so good right now that they are probably have more influence than the actual president. Let's see what this poll is at. Let's see. All right, good. We have a good crowd here. 62% say they want a stock market crash. Now, I have a follow-up question. I'm going to say, do you own $50,000 or more worth of stock? Do you own 50,000 or more in stock markets? Yes. No. All right. So let me show you how crazy this is with the like sections of people who own the stock market. Who owns the stock market? Let me get a nice chart here. By class. I got a better one actually. Wealth pyramid. So this is a great chart here. This really gives the story of what's going on. All right, so the wealth pyramid. All right. So 1% owns 50% of the money. Okay. Natural, it's going to happen no matter what you do. But like there's levels to how drastic it needs to be. Like there's steps that we could take to make this a little bit less crazy. Because when it really comes down to it, some people are just going to be stupid. Some people just don't know how to spend money. But there's a degree of like regulation and like favoritism and ways that like the first instinct of a company is to lobby the government to outlaw competition, right? So there's a lot of that going on, and they box out competition and create monopolies for themselves. But a lot of the time, people just aren't gonna be savvy enough to build wealth for themselves. But it's like stuff as simple as freaking buying bonds, like holding bonds or T-bills instead of cash. It's like stuff as simple as like asking your company to give you equity instead of like just a cash paycheck. I mean, the rate at which houses have gone up in prices, the rate at which the stock market's gone up in prices, that's not the stuff gaining value. It's the dollar losing value. So if you own that stuff, you're literally just like keeping pace with inflation. And by the way, funny thing about inflation, people keep talking about how, how tariffs are going to cause inflation. All right, well, you can't say at the same time that tariffs are going to cause inflation and that's going to cause a stock market crash, because the stock market crashes, we're not going to have inflation. Like we haven't had deflation in forever. When the market crashes, we have deflation. People have less money to spend. Things get cheaper. Like oil just went under $60 the first time in God knows how long. So you think that's going to be inflationary? It's not going to be inflationary. Like sure, maybe some shit goods that you find at Walmart might be more expensive because all the made in China stuff, but like bare essentials like food, energy, housing, that stuff should get cheaper if the market crashes. And those are the things that people care about. Like you shouldn't be tracking inflation based off how much flat screen TVs are. You should be tracking inflation based off how much bread and meat and gasoline and lumber and copper cost, like the things that you actually need to live. So it's I mean, it's crazy. Even I saw even Thomas Sowell was talking shit about this one. So and he brought up the Smoot-Hawley Act or whatever. So I might be on the podcast tomorrow. I might be on PBD tomorrow because I disagree with, or I think I'm going to disagree with like the narrative that they take because I don't know if they're going to agree with me. But I look forward to debating this one because I think that millennials and Gen Z have been shafted. We started being shafted before we were even born. And it's not that the old people were like all of them were having like ill intentions towards us. It's just like the same as today. People not paying attention, like people not understand the ramifications of getting off the gold standard or offshoring all of our jobs to China. But that's why it's annoying when people put their head in the sand and don't look at the implications of things that are going to happen. And I don't think it's a lack of intelligence. I think it's a lack of like desire to know about things. So I don't feel bad in the slightest bit for people who are complaining about their 401ks. I feel bad for people who are in their 20s and 30s who are $200,000 in student debt and don't own any stocks, and their wage like literally is like the same amount as an average apartment cost in their area, and they not only could they not afford to have a wife and kids, but they can barely afford to take care of themselves. So I feel much worse for that person than the person who's in their 50s and 60s and have $700,000 in their 401k and have their house paid off and got to squeeze the juice out of the economy before the kids that were our age are born. So that's where I'm at with that. And like I said, let's hope we could buy the dip. So I think if you have money that you saved, like wait for this thing to freaking tank and then, finally become an investor. Let's see where the poll's at right now. Do you own $50,000 or more? Yeah, see, so 70% of us in here do not own more than $50,000 in the stock market. Yeah, so if this thing tanks, then maybe that will be the case in a couple of years. All right, so let's move it on to I don't want to talk extensively about Iran because I think it's stupid that we're like entertaining the notion of going to war with them. Maybe that's being blown out of proportion, but I think you need to do one thing only to get the Iran problem taken care of. Like, did you know that I think over 50% of their population wants a new form of government? So they're primed and ready for a revolution. So we did this successfully in the 50s. We might have done it in the 70s in a way that didn't turn out so good. But I think the way to handle Iran is to enable the citizens to revolt against the government. I think that's the best thing you can do. I think like an actual war would be the stupidest thing. I think it'd be ineffective. It'd cost a ton of money. It'd be more difficult than Iraq and Afghanistan. And, and I think it would just give the government the ability to rally the people against the evil American empire. So I think the best thing we could do is get people in a position there where they could rebel against the government. They've had like a record amount of protests in Iran in the last couple of years. So I think they're primed and ready to go. They hate the government. I think they're ready to revolt. Here's an interesting one that I think we got to cover. So this came out a couple of days ago that oh wait, you know what? Before we hit that, I want to briefly touch on somebody that I'm going to start looking into a bit more, probably for a longer episode. But Miriam Adelson, you guys know Miriam Adelson, one of Trump's biggest donors. I think she's given like $600 billion to him. He might just be a friend, but I'm starting to wonder how much influence she has over him. And the freaking Jerusalem Post called her a modern day Rothschild. Oh, before I open that up, let's see. It's very annoying hearing Adam scream about his saving, how when they kept debasing my dollar. Exactly, Seven. And I don't know how old you are, but yeah, they've been debasing our dollar since 1970, right? So the closer you were to being born in 1970, the better off you did. I mean, I think anybody who turned 18 in the 70s and started just like you start throwing $20 per paycheck into the stock market in the 70s, you're doing pretty good right now. If you like even had the slightest bit of an investor's mindset, like starting in the 70s, you should have a couple $1 million right now that you're sitting on. All right. So the modern day Rothschild, Miriam Adelson, according to the Jerusalem Post. Let's take a look at this. And we're going to have to take an honest look and see how much of an influence she has. So Dr. Miriam Adelson, the modern day Rothschild, Israelis have finally recognized. So this is from the Jerusalem Post. All right. It says Miriam Adelson has been building the Jewish fortune for decades. Israel is only now starting to realize it. Get out of here, ad. So for years, Miriam Adelson was an enigma in Israeli society. Her name was often uttered with an asterisk, accompanied by skepticism, controversy, and a mix of admiration and disdain. She and her late husband, Sheldon, were viewed as kingmakers, puppeteers, or just another set of billionaires trying to shape Israeli politics in their image. Their immense wealth, their influence over both Israel and the U.S., and perhaps most of all, their endless support for Benjamin Netanyahu made them divisive figures. But something has changed. Israelis, especially Israeli media, are finally waking up to the reality that should have been obvious all along. Miriam Adelson is the most significant donor to the Jewish world and to Israel in our era. She is, in no uncertain terms, the Rothschild of today. The visible Rothschild, that's because I don't believe for 1 second that there's not a Rothschild that exists that has more money than Miriam Adelson, for the record. So she's a big supporter of Netanyahu. The people of Israel don't like Netanyahu, so I don't know if they like her too much. But man, how deep do I want to go into this? You know what? Let's do it. I saw an interesting video the other day. Don't know if I agree with it, but I want to play it for you because it hits on Adelson, Lutnick, and Wickoff. Wickoff, is that how you say it? Steve Wickoff. So, yeah, Howard Lutnick's an interesting one. He's like JD Vance. Like I don't think I've ever heard him say something I don't like, but it's almost like scary when you don't hear something that you don't like from a person, because it's like why do you seem so perfect? What are you up to? So let me see. I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Oh, I have to remember to tell you about this protester group that we uncovered this weekend too. But I could do that later or tomorrow or the next day. But here, check this out. Is this it? Here it is, I think. Yep, here it is. All right. Share screen, and we are off. Watch this. Tell me what you think. Where'd this freaking page go? The heck? Oh, here it is.
Got Howard Lutnick.
Here we go. Let me restart that. And here we go.
I would
What's up with my sound? Ah, and here's the problem. Here we go.
I would prefer a deal to the other alternative, which I think everybody in this play knows what that is.
No, what is
That's
it?
not going to be pretty, and I do not prefer that.
Behind him, who's that guy behind him?
I-
That was
That's Lutnick.
Was that Lutnick?
yeah, Lutnick, right? That was Lutnick.
One of the
behind him.
triumvirate. He's always there.
He's always there in the shadows.
There he is.
Wait a second. That's like the meme.
He
That
is.
is
That's
the
the meme.
He's doing-
We got it up. We got the meme up. So we've got Howard Lutnick over here, like kind of hiding half behind
in the shadows, literally in the shadows
behind the president, right? And then you can go to this anti-Semitic meme from like 1930.
Oh,
I call
man.
it the triumvirate. Obviously, there's more than three people that are behind what's happening to the Trump administration. You know, it's sort of implosion, as I've called it. But there are three that I refer to as the triumvirate. Howard Lutnick is number one, and Howard Lutnick is running the Commerce Department. He is the executor or one of the executors of the Sovereign Wealth Fund. And who is Howard Lutnick? He's former CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. He represents the Rothschild bankers. He represents Wall Street.
Say what?
The next is Witkoff. Witkoff is handling all of our foreign affairs. He is basically the shadow Secretary of State. And who does he represent? AIPAC. He represents the Israel lobby. And the third member of the triumvirate is Miriam Adelson. And Miriam Adelson needs no introduction, but she represents the Zionist banking class that basically bought and bribed Donald Trump, or worse.
All right, so I'm not taking a position on that yet. It's like I genuinely haven't looked into these people enough yet to have like firm beliefs on that. But Lutnick, Whitney Webb keeps talking a lot about Lutnick. I mean, I think that she just has a bias to dislike everybody. You know, I try not to like lean too much into what anybody is saying, but she talks a lot of crap about Lutnick. I'm not ready to go there yet. Same thing as Trump and Elon. I'm still super happy they're in there, and like the vast majority of what they're doing, but I'm still gonna talk shit when I don't like what they're doing. Wyckoff, I know nothing about. I gotta look into him a lot. I know he was on Tucker and he did that podcast, so I gotta watch that podcast and learn more about him. But yeah, with this removing kids from the country, like for doing stuff college campuses, like I get it if you're on a visa, but you know, it's definitely a step towards harming free speech, so we can't have that. But let me do some looking into that one, and we'll circle back to that. We have a feel good story from today. Let's mix that in real quick. So Ron DeSantis signs a bill to ban weather manipulation in Florida. Where the hell has this been, Ron? It's about time. Look at this. All right, so chemtrails. The Tallahassee Democrat says cloud seeding would be banned under Florida bill passed by Florida Senate. All right. Bill endorsed by Governor Ron DeSantis said that, among other things, outlaw chemtrails in Florida has passed in the state Senate. I have a problem with people spraying perfume around me sometimes. Don't you have a problem with people spraying things into our atmosphere that really have no type of empirical data, that you just don't know who they are or what they're doing, said Senator Elia Garcia, Republican Coral Gables. The bill sponsored on Thursday morning, geoengineering and weather modification activities prohibits the injection, release, or dispersion of a chemical compound, a substance, or an apparatus into the atmosphere in Florida to affect the temperature, weather, climate, or intensity of sunlight. Boom. I love that. This guy goes on to talk shit. He says, some believe that, what is it? Let's see this. Garcia's bill has been subject to controversy. Specifically, it would prohibit cloud seeding, the process of releasing tiny particles into the air to increase precipitation, a practice used in. We don't need any increased precipitation in Florida, for the record. A practice used in arid parts of the southwestern United States, like Utah, to increase the water supply. Similar bills have been filed in 8 other states, according to the bill analysis. But some believe cloud seeding, contrails, and the conspiracy theory of chemtrails are all intertwined. The term contrails, a portmanteau of condensation and trail. Chemtrail is a chemical and a trail. Both DeSantis and Attorney General James Udenheimer have expressed support for the legislation on social media. Got it.
Senator Ileana Garcia has legislation in the Florida Senate to ban geoengineering and weather modification in the state of Florida. I support the legislation. However, the Florida House of Representatives has gutted Senator Garcia's legislation, and they would actually codify the practice of geoengineering and weather modification. People got a lot of kooky ideas that they can get in and put things in the atmosphere to block the sun and save us from climate change. We're not playing that game in Florida.
Nope.
I support what Senator Garcia is doing, and I hope that people will tell the House of Representatives in Florida, do not gut this bill.
You know what? This is something that we can literally act on. Like, I live in Florida. I don't know how many of you live in Florida, but it takes like 70 calls to impact the vote of like an actual national congressman. So for the state, must be much easier. So let's call the shit out of these Florida Congress members and tell them, like, yeah, we don't want weather modification in our state. We don't see any tangible benefits from that, but we do see this scenario in which you could create hurricanes, monsoons if you wanted to for some crazy reason. So genuine question, how many hurricanes in Florida could have been from this? Who knows? But there were planes flying around the hurricane that hit Tampa last year. So Yeah, let's get on the horn and ban this shit. All right, Ron. Good. Ron's been on a losing streak, so I'm happy to see this. Happy to see Ron get back on the board. Let's see. Oh, quick. Let's touch on the. All right, the Laura Loomer thing. Don't need to like go too deep into that, but she goes to the White House last week, and some people get fired. But weird thing that from what I know so far, Alex Wong hasn't been fired yet, which people have been reaching out to me saying like, why is this guy even in his administration? Like the guy's wife was on the the J6 committee, so like this guy's a total what do you call it, like wolf in the henhouse or something, wolf in the sheep, like among sheep. I don't know, but so it's weird that she goes there and has the clout to get people fired. I don't know what she showed him, but whatever she showed him made some heads roll, but not Alex Wong apparently. So I don't know why he was there in the first place, and I don't know why he didn't get fired after this thing, because he was in that chat too. And I still don't know why people aren't talking about what Glenn Beck said, unless Glenn Beck was completely wrong in saying that what is it, that the contact wasn't even in Mike Waltz's phone, and the contact that he shared, or the contact that he added, ended up being the Atlantic reporter. But I've literally only heard Glenn Beck say that. I heard him say something entirely different than everybody else said, and Trump's administration hasn't even tried to defend themselves in terms of like this being some type of sabotage. So that would lead me to believe that what Glenn Beck said was wrong. I don't know. It sounded super plausible. Like I wouldn't put it past the CIA to do something like that. Like they have complete capability to do it, but not a single other person that I've seen has said it. So don't know what to say about that aside from like maybe they'd rather it look like a mistake than call out the intelligence agencies publicly. But I mean, what I do know is that it's weird that they made it mandatory for Signal to be installed on all government devices. It was weird that the CIA director didn't have a say in whether or not he had Signal on his device. And it's weird that, WikiLeaks said that Signal is a backdoor in it. That's, or not a backdoor, said that the intel agencies have the ability to intercept encrypted messages before they get encrypted. So, what are you supposed to make of that? If they have the ability to do that, if they're hostile towards this administration, if they're forcing the director to put this stuff on his phone, then I don't know. Leads me to believe that they definitely could have done that if they wanted to. But whatever. I mean, if Trump's not going to be interested in getting to the bottom of that publicly, I'm not going to fixate on it. One more for the day. Very crazy, very underreported. Don't know how true it is. I saw Alex Jones say it last week, and then I found one article talking about it. So Justice John Roberts allegedly is friends with this guy Eisen, who's I think the guy causing a lot of the ruckus with these courts trying to knock down Trump's executive orders. So let's take a look at this article from this hole in the wall website real quick, because this is the only place I found it. All right, the American Thinker. So Chief Justice and Norm Eisen, that's the guy. And the appearance of impropriety. So news broke over the last couple of days that Chief Justice John Roberts, good buddies as Norm Eisen, one of the chief investigators of the plot to destroy Donald Trump through the deep state manipulation and lawfare, under a long-standing federal rule of judicial conduct banning even the appearance of impropriety. Justice Roberts' close relationship with Eisen means he should step down. We all know who John Roberts is. He is the squish who leapfrogged from having been an appellate court judge for only 2 years to suddenly being Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Since then, he embedded Obamacare in... Oh, what the hell? Freaking ads. Nope, I'm not going to donate just yet, buddy. I didn't know that, though. I know that he was an appellate judge for only 2 years. Since then, he embedded Obamacare in America and has rather consistently sided with the court's activist justices on issues that, as matter of constitutional law and Supreme Court precedent, deserved originalist outcomes. Weird. I mean, yeah, so Roberts was appointed by Bush, and he's a Republican supposedly, but he doesn't seem like a Republican. I mean, just gut feeling, total speculation, say allegedly, say maybe, say who knows, my guess. Like, Justice Roberts is like always been like high up there for me in terms of somebody who like I could totally see being blackmailed with the way he acts. He's super wishy-washy. Most egregiously, when Roberts presided over the first impeachment against Trump, which conservatives believed was to keep people from learning about Joe Biden's corrupt dealings in Ukraine through his son Hunter, he ensured that Trump was denied basic due process. To that end, he denied Trump access to any of the proceedings in the hotel and to Democrat witnesses, and Trump was not allowed to bring his own witnesses. This was the first time in history that impeachment proceedings with roots in medieval England was carried out with without due process for the accused. Heck, even a drug dealer would have had more rights. All right. So let's get to Norm Eisen. All right. Not everyone, though, knows much about Norm Eisen, although they should. Eisen rose to prominence in 2007 when he campaigned for his fellow Harvard law classmate, Barack Obama. Obama rewarded Eisen, ironically, with a role in ethics in government reform. Also, ironically, Eisen aggressively pushed for greater government transparency, the very thing that Elon Musk is now making happen. And the Democrats are burning Teslas to stop. Where Eisen really started flexing his muscles, though, was when Trump was elected. It was Eisen who was the architect of the Ukraine impeachment against Trump again, something conservatives believe was a fraudulent effort intended to stop, and that did stop Trump from exposing how Hunter Biden was manipulating foreign policy to enrich his family. According to the Washington Post, Eisen was a critical force in building the case for impeachment. All right. Also, during Trump's years, Eisen was one of the people who sought to destroy professionally and personally John Eastman and Jenna Ellis, Trump's attorney, during the fraught post-2020 election. This was the first time ever that the government had persecuted lawyers in this way. Eisen is a pure Democrat Party hack who has the contacts and intelligence to advance a variety of initiatives that conservatives continue to believe do not align with facts or law. And that's why it was shocking to learn that Eisen and John Roberts, the same man who denied Trump his due process rights, Eisen, are good friends. According to Norm Eisen, the man who practically wrote the deep state's playbook in Color Revolutions, all things anti-Trump and lawfare in the U.S., he and Chief Justice John Roberts are not only good pals, but they even spent a week together in the Czech Republic. According to Norm, the two BFFs were there working on, quote, American rule of law issues. Yeah. Norm was so proud of this that he actually bragged about the trip and made it very clear that Roberts isn't corrupt. He's just a close friend who happened to fly overseas to stay at Eisen's posh 150-room palace to collaborate on the transatlantic political projects. Moreover, Eisen has spoken publicly about the fact that Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett are a highly intelligent woman with small mind and stunning lack of wisdom who owes her place in the Supreme Court to Trump, dislike Trump, and want to block. This guy's not the best writer. In other words, it seems Eisen is saying the two justices are pre-deciding cases out of personal animus toward Trump and the agenda that the American people elected Trump to implement. Norm Eisen said his longtime friend John Roberts probably did not like Trump's address to Congress, so Norm thinks John and Amy Coney Barrett, who also appear to sound like Trump, will continue to vote against Trump administration. So there you go. Up there's Alex's post. So, I gotta look into this more because I just heard about it the other day. But yeah, I've always had a weird feeling about John Roberts. I hardly ever acknowledge that he was a Republican because he doesn't act like a Republican. And yeah, weird guy. And this guy Norm seems like he just outright is like open about hating Trump. So if Roberts is hanging out with him all the time, then that's not good. All right. Well, guys, this was going to be a quick one because I might be on PBD podcast tomorrow. So I'm going to get ready for that and try to get to bed early. So we'll see if I'm on there in the morning, and whether or not I am, I'm going to jump back on tomorrow night because there's a lot to cover and I was gone for a few days. So much love. Check out the book club on Connect if you want to get up to date on the blackmail that's taking our nation by storm. If you want to know more about that, you can send me a message in the comments and we'll get that figured out. So as always, much love, and I will see you tomorrow. Good night.
We talk about the deep state, we talk about the globalists, inflation versus deflation.
Well, I mean, here at Mar-a-Lago,
I'm baffled that this isn't front page news.
Do you guys support a specific political party, or do you dislike both of them?
Oh, it worked like a charm on you guys.
Let's go, Brandon.